Welcome to the first episode of 2025 of Conversations on the Couch. I'm Dr. Danielle, and I'm so excited because today's episode is going to be all about reflections. I love reflecting on my previous years, thinking about the things that I will keep with me to take into the new year, the things that I'm going to leave behind in 2024, the things I need to improve, or the things that have been working really, really well. In order to do that, I usually complete the 4 A's, which I'll talk about more in the episode. It's a concept, a practice that I was introduced to by my dear friend and former colleague, Kendall Johnson Smith. It's something that I do every year, and I also encourage my clients to do as well. So if you feel comfortable, grab a piece of paper, pen, something to write on, or maybe you just can think about it and sit with me and be present in the moment and reflect as I reflect as well. Stay tuned, we've got an exciting episode. Reflecting is a relatively new practice for me, and I've been doing it for about maybe the last 3-4 years, and it has been really, really helpful. Now, you might be asking yourself, what is the point of reflecting? We'll leave the previous year in the past where it belongs, and we'll just move on. You could do that, right? And I know a lot of people do, and they are fine by doing that. But I would recommend taking time to reflect on the things that have happened in the previous year. I'm a firm believer that you don't know a problem exists until you take some time to take a look at it, be curious about it, and try to get into a relationship with it. In previous years, I would just move on to the next year, not really taking the time to think about who I was in the previous year, the things that were helpful to me, the behaviors that I engaged in that maybe I didn't want to engage in again in the coming year. And I didn't find that to be really helpful in terms of my own emotional and mental growth. So that's why I started doing this practice in terms of filling out the compass, which I'll share a link below, and also the 4 A's. About 5 years ago, Kendall Johnson Smith introduced me to the 4 A's. And it was a moment that at the time didn't seem particularly significant or special, but certainly changed the way that I looked at myself, how I reflected on my growth or lack of growth, but just how I spent time with myself as the year closed. I think it's really, really important to figure out how you showed up in your relationships, how you showed up at work, how you showed up for yourself or lack of in any of those areas. You can have problems, you can have experiences that are challenging for you and maybe not know how to go about it. And I think that it's really important for us to get into relationship with those challenges so that we can better understand how to resolve them. And one of the ways to do that is to do some reflecting. Prior to this experience of using the 4 A's, I would just go through life, just passing each year without really taking stock of who I was becoming, and maybe having some agency or control over who I was becoming. Now that I take the time to fill out the compass, which is a really in-depth look at your year and also a bit of future planning for the next year, I'll share a link below in the description. It's really helped me to define who I want to be in the coming year, set my intentions about what goals I would like to accomplish and how I would like to accomplish them. So, quick story, I realized after filling out the compass and doing the 4 A's that I was spending a lot of time working and not a lot of time enjoying life. And I am all about enjoying life as much as I can. And when I filled out the compass and again, the 4 A's, I realized that a lot of my time, a lot of the things that I had put on my calendar had been all about work and not time with family, not as much time with friends, not as much time doing the things that I really enjoyed. And I think that that really contributed to me not being as happy or as content as I could be. So after that reflection, I made sure that a lot of my time was spent doing the things that I enjoyed, the things that would bring a smile to my face. Now, I still had to work, of course, because I have to make a living, but I became more aware and more intentional about how I spent my time. And I think that that is a really, really important way of really taking control over the areas of our lives that we can control. There's so many things out there that we can't control, but we have influence over. And I think our bodies, our minds, and the way that we treat ourselves is definitely one of those areas that we do have control over. As a result, I am very committed to enjoying myself. And sometimes, the feedback is like, okay, you need to focus a little bit more on work now. So we're still finding that balance or that harmony between enjoyment and also doing the things that I'm responsible for. So here's how we're going to break it down today. I'm going to explain to you what the 4A's are. I'm going to offer you some prompts that will help you to think more deeply and reflect on your previous year. And then you'll take some time to think about what that might mean. And I'll also share with you just one of the few things that I've come up with for each of the A's. The first A is awareness. What are the things that you have become aware of in 2024? What are the things that you have come to know about yourself, about others, about your relationships, about work? What are the things that maybe you don't want to be aware of? Perhaps the things that you have turned a blind eye to, things that you have kind of put into the back of your mind so that you're not thinking about it. It's really important to be aware as the first step in getting into relationship with whatever challenges might be coming up for you. I know personally, my awareness piece is that despite all of the challenges, all of the really tough times that I had in 2024, I am really, really thankful for life. And I am thankful for life in all of its aspects, all of its glory, all of its difficult parts as well. I know when we talk about being grateful, sometimes we're only talking about the things that have been going well. But I think that for 2024, it's really taught me that life is about all of the things, the good times and the not so good times, the great moments, the unpleasant moments, the joy, the pain, all of those things are a part of life. And while I knew that intellectually before, I think it really settled into my bones and my spirit as more of a truth in 2024. So really thankful and grateful for life, even when it is really, really hard. What are the things that you have come to be aware of in 2024? The next A is accountability. Now, accountability is something that a lot of people have challenges with, myself included, as I'll explain to you in a second. Accountability is asking you, what are the things that you can take responsibility for with intention to change? What are the things that you can take ownership of, right? Or in this case, were there things that you should have or could have taken accountability for, but you didn't because it was too hard, or maybe your pride or your ego was in your way? What are the things that you can own and say, yeah, I did that, and maybe I shouldn't have done that. And going forward, I won't, right? So taking accountability is taking a look at the things that you can take responsibility for and ownership of, and try to fix or try to make amends with the promise of not continuing that behavior. Like I said before, 2024 really had some major challenges for me personally. And I can take accountability for the fact that I did not handle all of them in the most mature and emotionally intelligent way. I think that what I came to realize, and this is a part of the awareness piece, is that if things become really overwhelming, or I maybe have too much emotion or emotional energy happening, I can sometimes lean into the anger and irritability more than I can lean into the sadness. And I think that a lot of people who were around me at those really tough times may have gotten the brunt of the irritability and anger. And while I apologize, I also take accountability for the fact that that was not the best way to handle it. And it has prompted me to take a closer look at when I feel overwhelmed, when I am at capacity in terms of how much I can handle, where do I lean as a coping mechanism, what direction do I go in, and who are the people that often suffer as a result of me being overwhelmed. What are the ways that I can do things differently, whether it is explaining beforehand that I am at capacity while also kind of going through the emotional process so that it doesn't build up to capacity and then over threshold. So that's something that I'm going to take accountability for in 2025 because I want to do better and I want to do differently. And while I can explain why the thing happened, it doesn't mean that it needs to keep happening. So, what are you going to be taking accountability for? What were the things that were challenging to take accountability for in 2024? And can you start to think about ways that you might want to shift that and change some of that behavior that might not be serving you well? Another really tough A that we're going to talk about is acceptance. What are the things that you accepted about yourself, about other people, work, life, the world in 2024? Or, on the other hand, what are the things that you really struggled to accept or that you are continuously trying to accept? I know that for me, I have continued to try to work on accepting that I cannot control everything, that things are not going to always work out the way that I want to or want them to, that the universe, God, creator, has bigger plans and other plans other than the ones that I have set aside for myself, and that I can only do my best, that I am only making decisions based on the evidence that I have today, that next year in 2026, I may look back on these decisions and say, wow, that really wasn't the direction to go. But I'm going to accept that I tried my best using the knowledge that I had, and that whatever happens, I am going to be okay. What about you? What's your relationship with acceptance? Are you able to easily accept things, or are there specific things that really, really give you a lot of trouble to accept and to come to terms with? How are you going to address that in the coming year? The last A is asking. Now, this isn't to be confused with asking for something, but it's more about asking into something. This is about curiosity. What are the things that you can become more curious about? What are the things that you can really take the time to think about? Well, what does this mean for me? Why is this happening? Why did this happen with this person or in this situation and not anywhere else? So this is an opportunity to take the reflections a little bit deeper. So this year, I'm going to ask into my experience of anxiety, taking the time to look at how it has shifted from the moment that I named it as anxiety and how our relationship with each other has shifted or changed in the past year. I really think that I have done a better job at managing my anxiety, becoming companions with it rather than hating it or saying that you get on my nerves, get out of the way, I wish you would go away. Now, that hasn't been helpful in the past, but I think really just taking the time to recognize that my anxiety tries to be a protector for me and that I don't have to succumb to it all the time, that has been really, really beneficial. What are some of the things that you're going to be asking into? Maybe some of the areas that you have become aware of, or the ones that you maybe didn't want to take a look at. Those are some things that you can spend some time getting into a better relationship with. Asking into can feel a little bit scary. So, if you're not quite ready to ask into that thing or be curious about that thing, then maybe you can spend time asking yourself about why you're afraid to ask into that situation or that topic. I know it can feel scary and anxiety provoking, but I really believe that it is one of the best things that you can do in order to get into a relationship with yourself and ease some of the symptoms and worries that you might be experiencing. Take your time. It doesn't have to be something that is rushed. Let it be a gentle experience. One of my favorite sayings is that the only way that you can eat an elephant is a bite at a time. Take it a bite at a time. You don't have to take off these huge, overwhelming chunks of anything. Just take a sliver, slice it thin, so that you can really get into the experience of what might be coming up for you and why. So that you can make the appropriate changes and move in the direction that you would like to move into. Those are the 4 A's. To recap, we've got awareness, we've got accountability, acceptance, and asking into. I hope that you do take the time to answer these prompts and to look at the 4 A's and how they show up in your life. Additionally, I'm going to recommend the compass. If you Google the compass year reflection, you'll be able to find it. It's a really, really neat tool that takes a look at your year, how you've spent your time, the things that you are most proud of, the things that you wished you could change, and also gives you the opportunity to begin a little light planning for your 2026. These things have been really, really helpful for me to slow down and to think about my life and to think about what control I have over the experiences that I did have, and to think about how I can better improve my relationships with others and my relationship with myself. I hope that you find this helpful, and again, that you do take the time to really think and reflect on your 2024. And that's today's episode. If you enjoyed the episode, if you had thoughts, comments that you wanted to share, please leave a comment below. I would love to hear about how this episode resonated with you or didn't resonate. If there's anything else that you might want me to touch on, something that maybe you're uncomfortable having a conversation about with either your mental health provider or friends and family, please, I'd love to cover that topic. Remember that these episodes are not meant to be a substitute for a wonderful relationship with a mental health professional. This is just for informational purposes. If there are things that work for you, fantastic. If they don't work for you, leave them here, no hard feelings. Please remember to like, share, subscribe, and comment below. Your support and engagement means a lot to me, and I am really excited to continue to do this work with you in 2025. Be well, and I'll see you next time on the couch.